That also brings us to the end of our news bulletin this morning. And now, apparently, it looks like the more things change, the more things remain the same. Many people thought we had dispensed with politics and all the sideshows at the end of last year, and that we would focus on how to grow economically and socially this year. But that seems far from the truth, because even from the bulletin that we had, if it's not NASA wrangles, it's about MCAs somewhere, or it's about election petitions, or it's about Nairobi leadership rows and everything. This happens on the backdrop of the rising cost of life, rising fuel costs, no more subsidized unga, rising electricity costs. Parents cannot get money to take children to school. They cannot pay for fees as is wanted. They cannot even afford to buy basic necessities. What way forward? Now, I'm joined in the studio this morning by Haron Wachira. Haron Wachira is a social entrepreneur and managing director at Akili Group of Companies. Good morning, Haron. Good morning. You are a social entrepreneur. What do you take of all this? The more things change, the more things remain the same.
Yeah, sadly, that is true. I think we have trained our people for so long to depend on political discussions, political dispensations, people depending on politicians, that it's very difficult for people to create an agenda by themselves. And so I think that we need to actively start driving conversations around productivity. You know, one of the things that worries me a lot is the overall level of unproductive behavior among us all our people. If you look at people in offices, productivity is said to be very low. If you look at in agriculture, whether we are producing maize, whether we are producing, whether we are raising cows, whether we are producing milk, we are very unproductive. And so people do not make money that they can live on. If you take a farmer keeping a cow that is producing 2 liters of milk per day, when a cow should be producing 16 liters of milk per day to break even, that farmer will expect something to be given by somebody else. So I think at a first level, our big problem is the fact that we have an unproductive economy.
Do we have an unproductive mindset or economy?
I don't know. I think I would say both. We mostly is an unproductive economy, a framework. Kenyans live here, they move over to the US, and within 2 weeks, if they find a job somewhere, they are productive. Why is it that they are able to produce there and not here? So
they argue that there are no opportunities here.
Yes, and I think it's not opportunities, it's the framework for work. If you think about, for example, I'm working with farmers who are producing a small-scale production of spinach at this particular moment. The majority of them have got their land, they have got their spinach on the farm, but they have no water. So what do? They lose a crop because the water infrastructure has failed. If that infrastructure were available continuously through the season, they would make money in one season and another season, another one. Then we have situations where prices change very dramatically during harvest, and then immediately after harvest they crash. Take mangoes, for example. Right now, the prices of mango crash to the point of about 5 shillings a mango.
Yeah, there are footages of lorry loads of mangoes somewhere in Meru.
They'll just be destroyed.
Going to waste.
But a cottage industry in that community that would pulp those mangoes and keep the juice, like I think they're beginning to do in Makweni, to the point where they can sell that pulp during the off-season period, would change everything. So I think it's the preoccupation of leadership that we need to focus more into productive work and productive mechanisms of making an economy viable. Otherwise, we will continue talking politics.
Somebody says politics and development are like Siamese twins. You can't separate the two.
I don't think you can separate them because, you know, I mean, government right now, for example, constitutes about 70% of our of what you can call
political
our business. If government is buying and government were buying fairly, suddenly you have a lot of economic activity. So yes, politics and at the same time the economy. But if government is buying from China and then not buying from its local people, you know, I would take the example of just furniture, if you can allow me to deal with that particular one. All government offices need furniture, all Offices like this ones need furniture,
yeah.
but where is our furniture coming from?
Most of it from China.
Absolutely.
That is where quality is, so we believe.
Well, quality can be defined. If you created a specification, if let's say, for example, even at a county level, a governor defined that this is the quality of furniture that we needed, this is the schools, the polytechnics that can train our carpenters to raise these standards, these are the boards we can import, these are the nuts that we can make available for certain things, and you created an extension service to make sure the carpenters in a local area produced only furniture of that quality, you have just created money into the economy. But
now,
as
a social entrepreneur, you are more known for making things happen.
Yes.
Talking and too many words, little action is left for us, people like journalists and all the rest.
Absolutely.
And apparently, most Kenyans do not want to turn words into action. How best can this be inspired?
Actually, I think Kenyans want to turn words into action if you give them the opportunity. I'll give you a perfect example of a family that I was working with yesterday. We are growing spinach. We are drying the spinach for export. Now, this family has never farmed spinach before. But on their quarter of an acre, they have been able to grow a crop which attracted visitors from an international organization who wanted to actually see the wonder of a young family that is able to productively work. Why are they working that way? Because they were given a proposition of a good price, they were given a proposition that they can sell throughout the year, and they were given a proposition that they will always be paid.
So you say Kenyans can act if given an opportunity. So who gives them this opportunity?
Okay. First of all, given an opportunity and a framework. An opportunity and a framework. So I'll talk about the opportunities first, and then I'll talk about who can give those opportunities. If you take all our markets, I'm talking about mostly rural communities, because that is where the biggest troubles are. We have 42% of our people are poor. Now, every market day, more than 30-40% of the produce that comes to that market gets wasted. With a dryer next to that market or near that market, it is possible to dry all of those vegetables and store them with the National Cereals Board and supply the communities across Kenya that do not have vegetables. Who can create that market? A cooperative can establish a dryer over there. A social entrepreneur.
Dried vegetables.
Dried vegetables.
So instead of having them go to waste,
you buy them off at the end of the market day, you dry them. A vegetable that is dried properly can be reconstituted back by just putting it in water, or it can just be it can be powderized and used as a powder, but it remains mostly a vegetable.
The nutritional value remains the same.
It changes by less than 2%. Now, entrepreneurs, instead of investing in betting, can be investing in establishing those dryers. Local SACCOs, instead of putting their money, I understand that some SACCOs now are putting their money in betting schemes. You know, how do you make money?
Which is something else we need to talk about as far as...
We can talk about that one separately. But opportunities are there in the local communities to invest in things that create value in the economy and create assurance of work for those people that are able to work. Let me give you another example. Carbon offsets. I think we know COP21, COP20, whatever it is. I'm involved in with carbon offsets, and almost every county has a product that can be linked up to a carbon offset program. With proper leadership, it is possible to develop a CDM mechanism.
Where CDM mechanism here means?
It is carbon development mechanisms for clean development mechanisms, so that we reduce the emissions of carbon into the atmosphere.
We conserve the environment,
but we get credit for it. We get credit for it, whether we are building biogas units, whether we are using solar, whether we are using small micro hydro stations. It is possible to link the money from from clean development mechanisms into development activities. So I think it is really...
Can this be done by the common Mwananchi?
What do you mean? I'm working with the common Mwananchi. In Embu, we have 60,000 farmers who are connected to a clean development mechanism through a project that is called the Hifadhi project. They are using stoves that emit less smoke, and we are getting carbon credits that are going into the improvement of their livelihood.
So you are encouraged to keep the environment clean.
Yes.
And in the course of keeping the environment clean, you're paid for it.
Yes. And that money is enough to improve the livelihood of all the people who are involved in that program.
And that's an economic involvement.
It's an economic involvement.
Talk about frameworks. Those are opportunities.
The frameworks for doing it is to create a mechanism where you can absorb from the community in bulk whatever it is that they are doing in a haphazard way. I'll give you an example of the macadamia program in Kenya. We, I think, are only realizing whole kernels of macadamia of about 16% in the country. A whole macadamia kernel that is cracked inside costs about $15 in the international market. But a broken macadamia kernel costs $3 in the international market. How do we break it? We beat the macadamias off the trees instead of shaking them or collecting them. Just that one change.
That alone costs $12.
It costs $12. You know, if you have a program where the county is just training their members to collect or shake their trees, which can be facilitated by the county, you can have a machine that shakes the tree, produces the macadamia nut there, and then dries it nicely so that the macadamia can have a way of cracking without getting broken. You've just increased $12 into the economy for every farmer who has a macadamia tree for every kilo that they sell. So that, for example, is a framework for improving the quality of the macadamia. If you take milk, for example, if a cow is fed properly with a 60% carbohydrate diet and 38% protein diet and 2% minerals, that cow that has been bred in Kenya almost anywhere will produce between 12 and 16 liters.
Regardless of the conditions of the environment?
Absolutely. Just all cows that are artificial insemination bred in Kenya have got the capacity to produce that amount of milk. But what's the average production in Kenya is lower than 3 liters.
Because we don't adhere to most of these things.
But during the rainy season, it is possible for you to organize to grow high nutritional grasses like lucerne or rose grass and stock it. The farmers cannot stock by themselves because it's too much capital. But it is possible for a county to stock enough feed to make sure that all the farmers throughout the year can get good grasses for their cows.
Now, Harun, you've talked about macadamia, you've talked about cows, you've talked about spinach. The most common farm produce that everybody has at the top of their mind is maize, beans, cassava. Is there anything that can be done as far as
I don't think we should be growing maize.
What will you feed on? We are an ugali economy.
Yeah, we can import it. I don't think we grow, we don't grow salt everywhere, but we eat salt in every home. We get salt from where the salt can be produced most economically, like in the coast. Now, we have got this idea that we grow maize. Why aren't we growing oil for cooking? Because we realize that we cannot do it. Maize, I can tell you this, on an acre of land, if you grow maize, the maximum amount of money you can get gross is about 25,000 shillings. That's about the income you can get after an expenditure of about 18,000.
So you make about 9,000 shillings. Sorry, about 7,000 shillings.
Over an 8-month period, in some cases, over a 6-month period in some other places, or even at the lowest, maybe over 4 months period. On that same plot of land, if you grow spinach, if you grow French beans, if you grow even fruit, in some ways, you can make more than 4-5 times that amount of money, and you buy your maize elsewhere.
So are you calling up for culture change as far as our foods are concerned? Because ugali is a staple food.
I think no. I like eating maize, maybe probably not ugali as much, but I like eating my maize, but I buy it from money that I make from doing something else.
So you'd rather make more money from something else and use that money to buy what you need.
What you need. But that requires leadership, because that farmer who is growing maize grows maize because he does not have somebody to guide him to grow something else. I'm taking a farmer who grows maize and telling them, let's this season take a quarter of your land and grow spinach on that land. I'll buy the spinach for you at 10 shillings per kilo, and you will use my method and you will harvest 150 kilos. That 15 tons, 15,000 kilos. That means you'll make 150,000 shillings with an expenditure of about maybe 40,000 shillings, and I will provide the advance cash so that you can have the capital to be able to invest in the spinach, and then I will buy all of it and pay you immediately. Now, that farmer grows the spinach this season, grows maize also, compares the two, and in the next season, he doesn't grow any maize.
Fair enough. I want us to finish where we started from.
Sure.
The more things change, the more things seem to remain the same. You alluded to the fact that there is need for county leaderships to be more proactive, and there is need for the society to get good leadership to spur entrepreneurship and growth.
Absolutely.
Where does this come from amidst the politics from dawn to dusk?
I think if we say let's look to government and let's look to politicians, we are back to square one again, because the politicians will effect the programs that aid their political activity. So at this particular moment, I am calling for those people who play in the social space, like entrepreneurs, to begin investing in radical programs that bring about change. I'm also calling for governors who are socially minded and who actually are thinking development to partner with social entrepreneurs and with organizations, and they're there, the organizations that are willing to bring development into the counties in ways that can orient people to working in different ways. But also, I think we need some changes in policy. I would like to see the National Cereals Board changing to the point of being able to say it will take any stored product, whether it is a vegetable, whether it is a rice grain, whether it is a wheat grain,
whether it's macadamia,
so that entrepreneurs can know that they have a market to process excess, whatever it is that we have in excess, and have it stored within the framework that
for a good price,
for a better price, and for distribution elsewhere, the people who need it in other places.
Harun Washira.